Ooh, I look rough, but gotta show up for you guys. It's been a minute since I made a YouTube video. If you can't tell, I'm not at my gym parking lot. I'm at my home parking lot. And if you can't tell, I'm a little under the weather. I'm a little sick, guys. My immune system has not been what it used to be lately. So I got some immune supplements. I'm feeling like I'm almost better, despite how fucked up I sound. And it fucking sucked, but I am glad I got sick for a couple of reasons. You know, being being sick is, interestingly enough, similar to bodybuilding, except you get no net positive out of it. Well, what the fuck do I mean by that? Well, guys, literally last night, I did not sleep. I was up coughing, TMI, coughing up green shit, like a lot of green shit, the entire fucking night. Every time I'd manage to get to sleep, I'd wake up, and my like lung would rattle, and I'm like, oh shit, and I go and cough it up in the sink. It's gross, but it's the beauty of that is, it sucked in the moment. It was terrible. I had a shit couple days. But the hardest part, which was getting no sleep and fucking coughing all night, led to me feeling better. I can breathe pretty decent. Still some shit to get up. I think I probably got one more day before, get through today, and it'll probably be good to hit my cardio and train because I'm feeling very deflated. But it's as I was saying, sorry, I'm sick and I got a lot of brain fog. It was a bunch of hard shit to lead to something good. Although being sick, you don't get a reward at the end, you just get to not be sick. Also, being sick, I was talking about this on my story the other day, will remind you that the things you might see as mundane or boring or tedious when it comes to building a physique, you start to really appreciate those when you can't fucking do them anymore. I really wanted to train and go do cardio yesterday, but I remembered that's how I got fucking rhabdo last time, so I held off. But this idea of doing hard shit for a reward at the end, that's kind of what my life has been built on. I'm not gonna pretend like I struggled a lot as a kid. I was born into a very middle class family. I mean, I remember we were dirt poor during the fucking 2008 recession, but after that, things were pretty decent. It's not like I was struggling in the sense that, I was born into like, a household on food stamps and my parents beat me. Like that, no, that wasn't my life. But I chose to put myself through a lot of hard shit throughout my life. So bear with me for story time. I promise it's going to matter in the end. The first instance I can think of was, and this wasn't even this was one with no net positive either. When I decided I was just going to, like, in freshman year, do a shit ton of drugs and run away for weeks at a time, not show up to school and fail my classes and just like do acid on a school day and skip school to go skate. And eventually my parents got tired of my shit, and I'm sure you guys have seen some Dr. Phil and seen those bad kid wilderness troubled teen rehab programs that kids get sent to. If you've been following for a while, I got sent to one of those in Tijuana. And I'll spare you the bullshit, but let's just say there were things that they were allowed to do to us there as, I was 14, punishments they were allowed to give us that I, as a corrections officer in a jail full of felons, could not do. I would lose my job and get a charge. So it was a rough place. And the worst part about it was, your parents could pull you out at any time, but if you tried to tell them the conditions you were in or anything, like in a letter or, whatever, they would, you get sent to basically solitary, like how you imagine it in jail movies, for manipulating. So it was like pretty much you were there until either your parents pulled you out or you graduated the program. And now this wasn't like school. It wasn't like, 4 years and you graduate, there was no set time. It was like you had to, it was a fucked place, guys. Thinking back, every time because it's been so long, it's been 11 years. Every time I think about it, I'm like, damn, that was a fucked up place. We literally had, you got scored on everything you did. Behavior wise, how you did in school. We had to do online school there because obviously most of us were supposed to be in high school. You got scored on whether you exercised on your free time or not. It was very fucked. So you had a weekly evaluation each week, and that depended if you could go to the next phase of the program before you graduated. It depended if you got privileges, you could have the snacks your parents sent you, and if you wanted your life to not be absolutely horrible, you had to have a good evaluation for the week. And, I didn't for the first couple months I was there because I wanted to have fun and be a normal kid. And that just wasn't allowed, being a normal 14-year-old. So, excuse me, guys. I'm sorry I sound fucking gross, but I wanted to make YouTube for you. So essentially, I completely isolated myself. I shut the fuck up. I didn't say a word. I worked out in my free time. We had to do PE almost. And it was brutal. It'd just be all right, 200 burpees. And then if someone fucked up the burpees, we'd start back from 1. So it was a lot of just put your head down and fucking grind. And, that's what I did. I did hard shit for a reward at the end. My reward was going home. And I managed to get out of there in 7 months. There were some kids that were there for 2 years. And yeah, it sucked. And just this pattern repeated itself throughout my life. The Army. I mean, I'm sure you guys know what fucking basic training is and all that. And, field ops. It's just you got hard shit you got to do for a reward at the end. Same thing when I did corrections, guys. I had an academy. It was very fucking stressful. It was less physically demanding than when I was in the Army, but it was very mentally demanding. And there was a lot of fucking tests and a lot of studying and all my free time. I didn't get free time. I went home and I had to iron my uniform and study, and that was my day. And try and fit in meals where I could. But at the end, I got a well-paying job. It's, once again, the theme of struggle now for something big later. And I'm sure a lot of you guys could probably resonate with some of the stories I've told so far because, well, just the type of guys I attract to, my page, my program. As I said, I never advertise it, but, I end up attracting a lot of guys like me who have had jobs that they've really had to work for and do crazy shit, and it's high stress. And this theme repeats itself again. Starting my coaching business, guys. I know it seems like I'm pretty natural at it now. You can see my content and my fucking DM messages and all that from actually about a year ago. It was bad. It was bad, guys. I was very unsure of what I was doing. I literally got one client and quit my job. I forced myself to go all in on the fucking struggle. I didn't know if I was going to be able to pay my bills. I didn't know if I'd have to fucking tuck my tail and go back to my job like a fucking pussy. But I struggled, I would sit there and send 100 DMs a fucking day and post 5 videos and 20 stories every single day until I got down a system that worked out where I had consistent income and I was happy with what I was doing. And, yeah, just this theme in my life has really built me into the person I am today. Suffer now for big shit later. And I think I don't need to make some wild fucking metaphor for how this connects to building a physique. It's pretty obvious, guys. You have to do a lot of uncomfortable things to build a physique. I was ranting about it in a reel yesterday. Sustainable should not be in your vocabulary. Unless you are at your dream physique and you want to make no improvements and you just want to keep it the same, you're not going to have a sustainable plan. You're not going to have a sustainable lifestyle. You know why? Because sustain means to keep the same. So, if you're 20% body fat because you dirty bulk too hard on test deck at D-ball and you want to get down to 10% body fat, it's not going to be sustainable. It's going to be a struggle, guys. None of this shit is easy. Even taking gear. Taking gear is the easiest part and it's still hard. It's a financial, mental, physical struggle. You got to dial in all your fucking side effects. You got to dial in your blood work. Got to dial in, even pinning is uncomfortable. You got to dial in what compounds you like. You have to do a lot of struggling and experimenting around to, figure out what's actually going to give you the reward and get it, It's the same with your food, guys. Sometimes you're going to be hungry. Sometimes you're going to be over full. You're struggling for a reward later. Training. I love training, but sometimes there are sets that make me want to fucking die. Fucking Widowmaker sets on leg press. Oh my fucking God. Shit makes me want to puke every time. Definitely worth it though. It's bringing my legs back up. I'm trying to get them back to what they used to be pre-injury. But what is the point of this rant? Well, I think a lot of you guys are kind of obsessed with the end result and the glamorous part of bodybuilding and building a physique. And that's cool. I get it. I get wanting results. Who the fuck wouldn't want results? If a client hired me and I didn't give them results, they'd fire me. That's why we're doing this. But this is a pretty common theme with a lot of people I'm talking to lately is, hopping on gear and, training a little bit and expecting the results. They want to do the glamorous shit, the fun shit, take Anadrol and hit a PR and that's great. But that's being results oriented. And when you do things like that, you're going to fail. The glamorous shit is 10% of bodybuilding. I love those moments. I love those moments where I'm like, damn, I look good. Damn, I just hit a PR. But what's really going to get you there is the shit that is not glamorous. The process, love the process. I know everyone fucking says it. You got to fall in love with the process. It's so incredibly true. When I have clients go from, being all annoyed that they didn't see progress in 1 week between their check-in photos, which it happens sometimes, but it's rare. When I have clients go from that to, they text me, hey dude, just fucking smashed all my meals for the first time, I I wanted to stop cardio at 30 minutes, but I did 45 like I was supposed to, you know? When they start doing the shit that they don't want to do. Hey, I wasn't hungry for my meals, but I ate them anyway. I was really hungry, but I just said, fuck it, I'll have a diet soda and then go to bed hungry. You know? That transition right there, where you go from treating the process as much of an achievement and a result as, the actual physical manifestations, that's when you start to see real progress. And that's something people don't understand. It's one of the many downsides of not having a solid plan. Because it's funny. I talked about this in a reel the other day, and some guy was roasting me. He was so mad because I implied that a lot of guys who take steroids and, eat clean, don't follow meal plans, and don't track their calories. And he's like, that's common sense. Everyone does that. No, everyone does not do that. How do I know that? Because I'm a coach. I talk to hundreds of people every day, and I'm coaching 40 clients right now. And I'll tell you, almost none of them were following a meal plan, even though they were on gear, even though, they ate clean. It's not fucking common. And this is why a lot of people never fucking have this mental shift, is because you can't enjoy the process and fall in love with the process when you don't know what the process is. If you're just eating whatever, taking gear, and then just like, I don't know, hitting different lifts every time you go in the gym, and, there's no rhyme or reason to anything you're doing, you're not going to fall in love with the process because there's no process. The only thing you can fall in love with is the results, because that's the only thing that you have data on, to be honest. And that's a fucking trap, because if you're not following a good plan, you're probably not going to get the results you want. That's why a lot of people burn out and, take gear for 2 years and then fucking quit and then look like shit, or take gear for 10 years and still look like shit, because they never gave themselves a real process to fall in love with. This is why my clients are, for the most part, successful. It's because they discover that the process is what gets them there. They have a very detailed, outlined plan, and they know after doing it for a couple weeks and like seeing like, wow, this actually works, they see, oh, it's just as important to care about this as it is what my check-in photos look like. I heard another coach say something very profound the other day that I want to end the video with. Yes, I'm stealing content, but you see all these joke videos, like the only thing between you and your dream physique is 200 mgs of tren, or, some bullshit that's definitely not true. I'll tell you, from taking 1,000 milligrams of trenbolone, it's not the difference between you and your dream physique. This coach said, the only thing between you and your dream physique is a couple thousand meals. So start fucking eating meal 1. And it's that simple. The only thing between you and your physique, your dream physique, is the uncomfortable, boring shit that you don't want to do. So how about you fucking start doing it? Sure, you can't eat 2,000 meals at once and get your dream physique, but you eat those 2,000 meals over 2 years, or whatever the math comes out to. I'm probably butchering that. And it's going to manifest. What you need to do is fall in love with picking up that fucking fork and going, hey, I might not see this meal tomorrow in my physique. I might not see it in a week. But in a year, I'll definitely see if I missed it. Anyways, guys, that's my wisdom for you today. You guys have a good one. Train hard, eat big, blast gear.